This is Ruth Biggis. I don't know if anyone can hear me. Hello, just wondered if anybody can see or hear me.
We can hear you.
Thank you. It's Ruth Biggis, and I don't have any video options. So,
Well, we can see your little photo icon. So.
oh, okay, good. I feel bad. I can't see you guys. I don't know what the deal is. I will mute until I'm spoken to.
Good evening and welcome to the March 22nd, 2021 meeting of the Shawnee City Council. I'm Mayor Michelle Disler. I'll be chairing this meeting. First, I'd like to ask how many are in attendance from the public at tonight's meeting for the record.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Can you hear me?
Mayor, I can hear you.
Okay. Should I begin?
I'm not sure about the council chambers. Sounds like we're having some concerns here.
Okay. Let me know when to begin, please. Good evening and welcome to the March 2021 meeting of the Shawnee City Council. I am Mayor Michelle Disler. I'll be chairing this meeting. First, I'd like to ask how many are in attendance from the public at tonight's meeting for the record.
There are 9, Mayor.
Thank you. I'll do a roll call at this time. Councilmember Thomas,
Present.
Councilmember Zimmerman,
Present.
Councilmember Jenkins,
Present.
Councilmember Kimling,
Present.
Councilmember Larson Bonnell,
Present.
Councilmember Nappen,
Present.
Councilmember Constance,
Present.
Councilmember Chalfie.
Present.
Thank you. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Before we begin, I'd like to go over some ground rules. I want to make sure all participants keep their devices and/or microphones muted until I ask for comments. We'll use the raise hand feature in Zoom so I can recognize you. Just like always, I'll ask for motions on each item. Please raise your hand and wait to be called on before stating the motion so we can get an accurate record for the minutes. Next, I'd like to go over some emergency procedures for this meeting. City Council and Council Committee meetings will continue to be held via Zoom. During the meeting, I'll offer the opportunity for public input. If you'd like to speak to the council at any of those times, please come forward to the designated microphone. I'll ask you to state your name and address for the record. You may offer your comments so that members of the audience can hear your comments. I would ask that you speak directly into the microphone. By policy, comments are limited to 5 minutes. No person may speak more than twice to any one agenda item. Only comments related to city business are permitted. Comments and remarks that are personal, impertinent, or slanderous are not permitted. Disruptive acts are not permitted. Face coverings are required when speaking into the microphone to help protect one another. After you're finished, please sign the form on the podium to ensure we have an accurate record of your name and address. Additionally, comments can be submitted to the entire governing body via email at governingbody@cityofshawnee.org. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Does anyone have any items they would like to remove from the consent agenda? Seeing none, I'll accept a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Move to approve. Second, Larson Bonnell.
Motion has been made and seconded on this item. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion passes. The next item on the agenda is mayor's items. I have one item on tonight's agenda. I'd like to read the 7 days proclamation. From the office of the mayor, whereas 7 days make a ripple change the world is an annual week-long experience providing opportunities and encouraging all people to increase kindness through knowledge, mindset, and behavior. And whereas 7 days begins Tuesday, April 13th, 2021 with Love Day in celebration of our youth. And whereas theme days of love, discover, others, connect, you, onward, and go bring people from different faiths and cultures together to overcome evil with acts of kindness. And whereas the memories of 3 wonderful and unique people, Dr. William Corcoran, Reed Underwood, and Terry Lamano, will live on and will be cherished. And whereas 7 days expands its acts of compassion, acceptance, and understanding to those who gather and celebrate the lives lost due to acts of hatred and intolerance. Now therefore I, Michelle Dissler, Mayor of the City of Shawnee, Kansas, do hereby proclaim the week of April 13th, 2021 as 7 days week in the city and encourage all Shawnee residents, businesses, and visitors to come together during the 7 days week to engage in acts of kindness. And my understanding is we have Ruth
Biggest.
there we go.
That's okay. On behalf of 7 days and our committee and our youth, I want to thank you so much for participating as a 7 day city, spreading the message of kindness and hopefully participating in some of our activities April 13th through the 25th. Please visit give7days.org and we would love to see you all there virtually. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is public items. Item number 1 is to consider resolution number 1937, providing notice of a public hearing for Monday, April 12, 2021 at 7 p.m. to consider levying special assessments in the Belmont Promenade Community Improvement District. On April 27, 2020, governing body passed ordinance number 3323 levying special assessments. The ordinance was never submitted to the county because the developer did not purchase the land by the prescribed date. New public hearings were scheduled for November 2020, but did not occur due to project delays. A resolution is required to call a new public hearing to consider the special assessments. The recommended action is to consider adopting resolution number 1937. Does anyone on the council have any questions? Is there anyone from the audience who would like to speak to this item?
There is one, Mayor.
Please come forward and state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members. My name is Don Lysett. I live at 6850 Bell Road in Shawnee. I'm not here to say do it, don't do it. What I am here to do is what I would like to think is impart perhaps a little wisdom on how we do this. Given the fact that there are some new council members on on the council, maybe do not know the long history of this project, not to mention its predecessor projects. I just want to say, we don't know, we, the public, right now don't know, is it the identical project? Is it a similar project? What's changed? What's not changed? All I'm suggesting to this council is, and you can use whatever date you want for the public hearing, that the developer be required to get to staff all their materials, whatever they're planning on proposing, say 14 days before any public hearing. Because I know for a fact that it's become a problem. I'm not picking on this developer, all of a sudden stuff comes in at the last minute, your staff is scrambling to try to put together a coherent memo, pros, cons, whatever. Given the protracted history here, I think that's a reasonable period of time, and then that information becomes public a week, at least a week, prior to any hearing. I'm going to further suggest that a motion be made that staff be instructed to put together a memo, and in that memo, just simple bullet points. This is the same, this is the same, this is the same, or maybe this is different, and here's why it's different. Because we're all going to spend potentially a lot of time, emotion, some money, and maybe for naught in the sense of, if this is the same project, I don't think there's going to be any problems with it. But we should not be put in the position of having to make that determination over a weekend, which is how the present rules and procedures permit. I don't think it imposes any burden on the developer. Like I say, if they feel that's not sufficient time, simply move the date back for the public hearing. But I think this council, given this history and this matter, and we the public, we want to know ahead of time. And it could very well be, but I don't know, there's absolutely no change, in which case I suspicion that meeting or the hearing on this matter will only last a few minutes. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the audience that would like to speak to this item?
No.
Thank you. I'll accept a motion.
Move to approve, Zimmerman.
Second, Larson Bennell.
Motion has been made, seconded on this item. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Next item on the agenda are from the council committee meeting of March 1st, 2021. Item number 1 is to consider suspending policy number 63, PS 63, Shawnee's Farmers Market Fees and Operating Procedures. Council committee recommended 8-0 to move forward with the new Moonlight Market concept for the farmers market. Staff is proposing the suspension of PS 63 until December 31st, 2021 to allow flexibility for event preparation, expanded vendor opportunities, and changes to the hours and days. If approved, staff will draft administrative policies for the Moonlight Market. The recommended action is consider suspending PS 63 until December 31st, 2021. Does anyone on the council have any questions? Anyone from the audience like to speak to this item?
No.
I'll accept a motion.
Move to approve.
Mayor, I put my hand up, but you're just way too fast for me, to try
I'm
to
sorry.
turn my computer into a position where I can fit the hand thing. You've already moved on, but I was trying to at least get a word in here.
Yep, go ahead, Mr. Jenkins.
I supported this project during the council committee meeting, and I still do. I would just like some feedback. I made some suggestions about extending the hours beyond what was originally proposed. I did not ever get any kind of feedback as whether that was everybody's favorably disposed toward that or what. Can I get some kind of update? Because I was looking at least 10 o'clock instead of 8 o'clock for closing. Any word?
Yes, Mayor, this is Lauren Grasshoff.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Jenkins, we did actually look into options. We thought 4 to 8 was a good start for this event, but we can certainly look into expanding it. We have to kind of set that time frame for vendors and then any sort of activities, live music within that 4 to 8 time frame.
Yeah, well, this makes a difference whether we're talking about the Moonlight Market or the daytime market, because it's broad daylight at 8 o'clock on a summer night. So just kind of curious why we're even calling it Midnight Market if that's what we're doing, Moonlight Market. Obviously, if you're going to have music and things like that, extending into the later hours of the night and keeping people here, and then maybe they're going to wander across the street to our breweries or other facilities here in downtown might be a good thing. So I strongly recommend that we look at extending the hours. And with that said, I'll move to approve.
Second.
Motion's been made, seconded on this item. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Item number 2 is to consider resolution numbers 1938, 1939, establishing a community engagement task force and public arts task force revisions to policy statement 72, ordinance number 3363, amending the Shawnee Municipal Code related to boards and commissions. This item was presented at the February 1st and March 1st, 2021 council committee meetings. Committee recommended 7-1 to form a community engagement task force, 5-3 to form a public arts task force, and 7-0 to amend PS 72 to include information about training, attendance, and removal language. 2 resolutions are required to form the task forces, and ordinances required to amend various sections of the Shawnee Municipal Code related to boards and commissions. There are 4 recommended actions to consider. The first recommended action is to consider adopting resolution number 1938, establishing a community engagement task force. Does anyone on the council have any questions? Councilmember Nappen?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate, my thoughts from our committee meeting. Obviously, I'm all in favor of community engagement, and so I think that's a great idea if we want to do that. I do have some concerns about creating more bureaucracy, and we have a lot of committees now. Just not sure if we need an additional one for the arts. So that's my thoughts. Thank you.
Councilmember Thomas, and then Councilmember Larson-Bonnell.
Yes, I just, to mirror what Kurt had indicated, we do have a lot of committees, and this is a task force, so it is different, so it will have an end date. However, I think whenever we look back at what we've experienced of recent with the comp plan and in reading some of those sticky notes that were left about, we don't have a lot of, it may be 50-50 a split of people that really support it versus people who see it as merely lip service. I wonder if creating this task force of community, what are we calling it? Community engagement, would be received as actually community, or is it more leadership steering that direction? So I think those are questions I have in my mind after reading a lot of the notes that were left on drawings and things this past week. As far as this particular recommendation is not about the arts, correct?
No.
There's 3 different ones.
One of them is arts.
One at a time? Okay. I just feel like, in addition to that, it does concern me somewhat that this could be utilized as a segue to kind of rehash the notion of a community or communication liaison new position, which I certainly do not support at all. But I think we could gain a lot from the community with what we've done this far, and let's see where it goes before we start putting on another task force.
Thank you. Councilmember Larson-Bonnell and Councilmember Jenkins.
Thank you, Mayor. I think that the Community Engagement Task Force is one of the most important things that we can do as a council. What we've been hearing for the past 2 years is that there are communication gaps between the city and our residents, and we really haven't had an opportunity to drill down on what the causes of those gaps were. And I think that this is a wonderful way to, at the very least, extend an olive branch to say, we're ready to get very serious about this. We really want to hear from our community about, we need new ideas, because what we've been doing hasn't been working. And I don't think we can look inward for these new ideas anymore. I think that this task force is going to be a great idea for us.
Councilmember Jenkins and Councilmember Constance.
I don't know. I don't think it's just semantics. I think it's an issue when we're calling this a task force. If it's a task force has a mission. They have clear-cut goals and objectives, and there should be a product at the end of the task force relative to producing something that can be used by the governing body, since the governing body is forming this. I don't know where I've ever had a situation yet in my over 5 years on the council, where I had a concern which I needed to go to a task force to take care of public engagement. I go to the public and engage. That seems to work very effectively, actually. I suggest we all do that. Go out and meet with our public on a regular basis. What is this task force going to produce? Now, if it's a committee and it's an extended committee, it's going to go on ad infinitum. Yeah, maybe you get some people out there, liaison or something. But if this is a task force, there's a closing date on this, there should be a wrap-up type of situation. There should be a product produced, recommendations made, actions to be taken or not taken at the end of the process. And I don't see that. I mean, I don't know if we're just confused here and don't know what we're doing as far as a task force as opposed to a committee. I don't know. I have the same issues with the Public Arts Task Force. I don't see where it's clear cut. I don't see where it's defined. I don't see where there's a product. It's just, okay, we're going to have another quilting bee group that's going to sit around and talk about these things, and in a year or so they go away. I mean, I have a problem with that. I think I agree with Tammy's comment about this could possibly wind up moving into justification for another staffing position, which we've already rejected as a council. So I don't really want it to go in that direction. And I also have a problem with task forces and community, task forces and committees that tend to evolve and become needy organizations that have to produce something in terms of spending money. And therefore we got to fund these guys because, hey, the only way we're going to get a product is to go pay for it and bring something in. Next thing you know, you get consultants. I know we've already talked about facilitators and consultants for the Community Engagement Task Force. We're creating another expense, and I've been kind of concerned with expenses lately because it seems like we're on a bunch of sailors on shore leave. We're spending money like it's going out of style on all kinds of stuff that doesn't seem to have any actual value or end result to it, and I'm concerned about that. So I think this could potentially evolve into another one of those situations as well. I don't think, having really thought this thing through and spent a lot of time and effort on it, I don't think I can support either one of these at this point.
Councilmember Constance, Councilmember Zimmerman, Councilmember Chafee, and then Councilmember Larson Bonnell. Councilmember Constance, go ahead, please.
All right, thank you so much. I'm just expressing my yes vote. I think these task forces provide additional opportunities for residents to engage and share their input and ideas with us to make Shawnee better. I really think it's a win for residents and a win for our city. If there's more ways that we can get folks involved, I am 100% on board. So definitely supporting this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Zimmerman.
Just a quick note with regards to Mr. Jenkins' concerns about the goals and the responsibilities and the specific mission of these task force. I did see that in the package, staff has done a pretty good job of outlining just exactly what the task force mission is and what they're supposed to deliver at the end of it. It's on page 143, 144, and I believe it might go on to 145. Just as reference. Thank you.
Councilmember Chafee.
Thank you. I just wanted to voice my support for these as well. I feel like it's just a great way to get residents who want to be involved, and not only to pay lip service to the feedback and the ideas of residents, but to actually look at the report that is produced from this task force, which, I'm looking through these 7 bullet points that are the roles and responsibilities of this particular one. They will create a final report with their findings to include a summary, a dive into each of these findings and options and recommendations for the governing body. So in my mind, it feels like we are saying to our citizens, we don't want to hear what you say. We don't want your input. And I think that the opposite is true. I think that we all do genuinely want to hear what we can do better as a city. So I am in support of both of these task forces. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Larson Bonnell.
Thank you. I'd love to think that over the last couple of years, all of us in the governing body have learned a very strong lesson about listening to our community members. And our community members are the ones that have been telling us that there is something broken with our system of communication. If we needed further evidence of that, we can look no further than to any of the projects that have gone on in the city, and we see inconsistent information in the community. We know that we have an issue here, and we know that our community members are telling us that we have an issue, And I think, where we're talking about, well, if they're just going to recommend another position, I understand that right now we are not really in a mood to consider other positions. But I would hate to think that after a committee met and prepared a nice report that was supported by evidence, that we would look at that and we would completely discard it and say, well, you said that you wanted another position and we can't do that. Because there are different ways that we can accommodate new positions. It could just be that we're eliminating another position and it's going to be instead devoted to this resource. I also want to point out that nothing about this task force is allocating any money from the city budget other than our staff time. And I'm not trying to minimize that. But right now, our city finances are in really great shape, especially considering what we just went through with COVID. So I don't find the argument of that this could lead to things that could cost money to be very compelling, to be a compelling enough reason for us to say, well, we shouldn't do what our community members are asking us to do. It was a small ask on behalf of the community, and we should be doing it.
Councilmember Thomas, and then Councilmember Jenkins.
Yeah, I think everyone knows that I'm all about public input as far as that goes. I think the fact that we have been able to return business from the floor so folks can stand and speak. However, I do think it should be earlier in the meeting to be more appropriate and messaging that what people have to say is important. But I'm just thankful that we do have it at this time. But I think people have multiple ways to communicate with us. Welcoming them into this chamber and speaking to us directly in person, I think, is an outstanding way to understand what our citizens are talking about. Having neighborhood groups where perhaps one person comes and represents, the neighborhood, something such as that is great. But I just don't know that I think investing additional staff time at this point is a great idea. I think allowing folks to come to the floor, talk to the council in person is an outstanding first approach in an appropriate time frame within the confines of the meeting time. So I just want to be very clear that I am about inclusion of folks' ideas. We're in a mess in some areas because it's not been welcomed, but I don't know that people in general will really take the belief that what comes before the council will be truly the ideas of the people. Will those ideas be steered by others? And that's why I say we need to see what comes forward on the comp plan that we just went through last week.
Councilman Jenkins.
Yeah, just to follow up to Councilwoman Brunel's statement about our budget being in great shape and all, and I think that's marvelous. So we made it through the pandemic crisis, at least most of it. We're not all completely done yet with our budget actually showing a little bit of a surplus, but to sit here and talk about how we're in great shape financially is kind of off the wall comment, because we really are not in great shape financially. If you look at our storm sewer situation here, where we need $100 million in the next 10 years, we're way deficient in that. We don't even have close. We got all kinds of unmet needs right now. So I'm glad we didn't our budget maintained for the year, but our budget needs to be even better than it already is, because we got all these needs out there that aren't being met. And so, yeah, that's great. We didn't have to dip into a reserve this year, but I'll tell you what, we're not in great shape. We're short, and we need a whole lot of money to get our things in order that need to be gotten in order that haven't been taken care of over the years, and they've been allowed to accumulate and grow, and now they're kind of like climbing a mountain to try to get some of these things resolved. And it's incumbent upon this council to try to solve those problems. They're kind of been dropped in our lap. Nobody here's caused this problem. I mean, these pipes were built 60 years ago, and there was no kind of escrow account or anything like that to try to address these issues when these things came home to roost, when they started deteriorating and falling apart. But we've got these kind of issues right now. So although I guess on the surface it looks like we're in great shape because the budget all matched up and everything, we're really not in very good shape, because we got this 800-pound gorilla lurking around the corner just waiting to ambush us that are sitting out there. So we got significant financial issues, and I'm really not in the mood to start looking at new ways to spend money, because we really need to be looking at how to best use this money to achieve some of these goals of resolving some of these pending problems. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Larson Manel.
I'm going to pass. Thank you.
Thank you. I would just like to add that, yes, while business from the floor is a good thing that we offer that most cities don't, and I have my own events and I'm at every event, and where at one time the city of Shawnee was a governing body where the elected officials made all the decisions and didn't ask public input, and there was a feeling in this community of, you can't fight City Hall. They're just going to do what they want. They don't want to hear from us. They don't care about us. And as a lifelong resident of this city, I was one of those people that felt that way. And that is why I feel so strongly that we do anything and everything in our power to get as much public input and community engagement as we possibly can. So yes, while we are doing things now, I don't think we can do too much. I don't think we can ever do too much when it comes to getting this community involved in its future. Because every person, every 67,000 people have a voice in this community, and not just, well, I love hosting my coffees and I love seeing new faces when they come in every month. For the most part, it's the same handful of people every month. And I want to hear beyond that scope. I want to hear from those folks, but I want to hear from as many people as I possibly can to make the best decisions for this city in a collaborative approach. So for that reason, I completely support these task forces because they are task forces. They do have an end date. They are going to come to a completion. We have total control in the end. They cannot spend any of the budget money. They cannot recommend something and then it's just going to be. We as the governing body are the ones that make the final decision on anything that is brought forth to us. And each one of us has the opportunity to appoint someone to that committee. So if you know someone in the community who would, give it that eye of scrutiny that you want to make sure it has, then you appoint that person to the committee. And that way you feel as validated in the end results as everybody does, because you trust the person that you put on the committee to represent your seat that you have to fill. So is there anyone from the audience that would like to speak to this item?
There's one, Mayor.
Please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
My name is Deanne Gould Lancaster, and my address is 22320 West 46th Terrace. I am a 7-year resident of Shawnee. I moved here from St. Louis. I've lived all over, and I intentionally chose to live in Shawnee, Kansas, not only because of the services the city provides, but also because the people are friendly, and I like it here. When I learned that there was consideration for a public arts task force, I was excited. I was excited that we were considering this because personally, I'm an artist and I have a master's in arts management. And previously, when I lived in Corpus Christi, Texas, I led a 17-member arts commission. And we did a lot without very little money. And it enhanced the lives of not only the city of Corpus Christi, but also the citizens in the surrounding Nueces County. So I read through just what the Public Arts Task Force would do, and I can tell you that we're set up for success. We just need to give it a chance. Now, I understand that there's hesitation. Perhaps we've tried this before. I don't know. I wasn't here prior to 7 years. But just because we might have tried this before and failed, or that it created just consternation and maybe political strife, or maybe there were things that I'm not even aware of, let's have a fresh start. Let's look at what our citizens want today. And it's much more than a quilting bee. Public art is much more than a bronze statue. It's art, it's permanent and non-permanent. installations, it's music, it's dance, it's theater, it's written word, it's a whole bunch of stuff. And for all of you that have said, I don't know that I'm against it, people in your wards actually like art, public art by definition. It's not just a one and done thing. And it is a creative expression of our culture, of our community. And we should celebrate that and celebrate our history. And as citizens of Shawnee, Kansas, this task force, I look at all of the different components and the different representatives that would form this task force and what the task force would be tasked with doing. I don't see any money being spent. In fact, the plan that would be the product of the public art task force would be up to the mayor and city council to decide. Do you take the recommendations of the people that represent this task force? There's so much that we can expand. We all went through the pandemic last year, being in lockdown. You probably saw YouTube videos of people all over just creatively doing things, serenading neighbors on their balconies, picking up paintbrushes, trying new things, making art out of toilet paper rolls, a whole bunch of things. Parents became teachers and probably had to do some art. It's about an experience, and people are looking for experiences, and we have a unique opportunity now, especially since we're not in the clear yet. We're still going through a pandemic, to come up with some solutions and expand our offerings. We offer a lot of great things in Shawnee. Our Parks and Rec department, I'm recently appointed to the Parks and Rec board, and I'm happy to be there. I'm excited about what we're doing, our virtual tours for schools. This is just expanding that and coming up with a strategy for what we could do, what we could become, and living up to our city motto of good starts here. And it starts now with these task force and with the Public Arts Task Force. That's it.
Is there anyone else from the audience that would like to speak to this item?
Yes, Mayor, we have one.
Please come forward and state your name and address for the record.
Sorry, I'm just putting my
That's okay.
address.
You all filled out?
Yep.
Good evening. My name is Ray Ehrlichman. I live at 7510 Garnett Street here in Shawnee. I had the opportunity to serve on a task force for this city. I think it was approximately 12 or 13 years ago, and probably the only member of the governing body that would remember that would be the mayor. And that was the smoking task force. I have some questions, and I am not expecting any answers tonight. The questions are made to be thought-provoking. And another reason why I'm not expecting any answers is because, according to city policy, members of the public who come up here to speak are not supposed to engage in debate with members of the council. So accordingly, I hope nobody on the council decides to try and debate with me. These task forces, and I believe Mr. Jenkins pointed out, somebody's got to guide them, lead them. And those are usually the functions of a facilitator. So the big question, or the two questions I have, would be, number one, would the facilitator be from an outside source, as it was with the smoking task force? And if it is from the outside source, what's it going to cost? And a lot of times, the other question that comes up is, what is the function of the facilitator? Supposedly, it's to just help people put their ideas together. And in some cases, the facilitator seems to direct the task force down a predetermined path. So that's another question. Will the facilitator try to draw out commentary, or will they attempt to interject thoughts and opinions of those affiliated with government to direct the task force to a predetermined conclusion? Then the next question that comes up is, what's the possibility, considering we do have quite a staff in the city, of the facilitator being appointed internally? But then the same question comes up. Will their function be to help gather the people together to voice their opinions? Or will it be to lead the task force down a road to a predetermined outcome? So those are my questions. As I said, with all due respect, which might be unusual for me, I'm hearing some chuckles from the audience. I do not expect any answers tonight, and I will abide by the fact that I'm not supposed to engage the council in debate, and I would appreciate it if the council behaves in the same manner. Thank you.
Thank you. Assistant City Manager Caitlin Gard, do we have any answers to those questions?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Ehrlichman. And Stephen, please feel free to jump in, but I feel like we have the same answer. We actually had the conversation about outside facilitators for each of these task forces, I think at the February, it may have been the March meeting, in which at that point, I think the governing body kind of directed, and I think staff even recommended that these facilitators be in-house staff that already are on staff. And so those facilitators for each of the task forces would be Stephen and myself. And not to toot our own horn, but I think this is kind of our job, is to facilitate a process without bringing forth a recommendation. And hopefully members of the community that are focused on these different areas of the task force would hopefully help lead that conversation with the expertise that they have. Like I said, I may not be a public arts enthusiast or knowledge expert, but I am good at facilitating a process. And I would agree that Stephen is the same for the task force of community engagement. So hopefully those would be successful.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the audience that would like to speak to this item?
No, Mayor.
Thank you. I'll accept a motion.
Move to approve. Constance?
Second, Zimmerman.
Mayor, I had my hand up. This is Tammy.
Sorry, Councilmember Thomas.
Yes, I just wanted to express my thanks for you coming forward. My husband and daughter are professional in the creative world, so I have a passion for art. I can't draw a straight line, so anyway, I think it goes beyond drawing. It's singing, and as you said, and all of that type of thing. But I just wanted to personally thank you for sharing your thoughts. I appreciated that.
Thank you. A motion has been made, seconded on this item. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay.
Aye.
Nay.
Okay, we're gonna have to raise hands. All in favor, please raise your hands.
These are four separate votes, right?
Yeah, yes, the second one is the public arts and the third is revisions policy statement 72. This one is for the community engagement.
I just want to double check because the motion was simply to move to approve. Thank you.
Okay, so in support of the public engagement task force, I have Councilmember Chaufi, Councilmember Constance, Councilmember Zimmerman, Councilmember Larson Bonnell, and myself. That makes 5.
I was a yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand up. And Councilmember Nappen. So we have 5, 6, I guess, with me. Okay, let me get these hands lowered. Second recommended action is to consider adopting resolution number 1939, establishing a public arts task force. Does anyone on the council have any questions? And it seems like the audience already commented on this one as well. I will accept a motion.
Move to approve.
Move to
Zimmerman.
approve. Second, Larson Bennell.
Motion has been made and seconded on this item. All those in favor, please raise your hands. I have Councilmember Constance, Councilmember Zimmerman, Councilmember Chalfie, Councilmember Larson Bennell, and myself. Motion passes. Third recommended action is consider approving the revisions to policy statement number 72. Does anyone on the council have any questions? Anyone from the audience like to speak to this item? I'll accept a motion.
Move to approve, Knappen.
Second, Zimmerman.
Motion has been made, seconded on this item. All those in favor, raise your hands, please. I have Councilmember Larson Bennell, Councilmember Constance, Councilmember Chalfie, Councilmember Jenkins, Councilmember Knappen, Councilmember Zimmerman, Councilmember Kimling, Councilmember Thomas. Motion passes unanimously. Fourth recommended action is to consider approving ordinance number 3363, amending the Shawnee Municipal Code related to boards and commissions. Does anyone on the council have any questions? Oops, everybody's hands are still up. 1 second, please. Councilmember Thomas, do you have a question?
No.
Oh, okay. Is there anyone from the audience that would like to speak on this item?
No, Mayor.
I'll accept a motion.
Move to approve. Zimmerman.
Second, Chalfie.
Motion has been made, seconded on this item. All those in favor, please raise your hands. I have Councilmember Chalfie, Councilmember Knappen, Councilmember Constance, Councilmember Jenkins, Councilmember Larson Bennell, Councilmember Zimmerman, Councilmember Thomas, Councilmember Kimling. Unanimous. Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is staff items. Item number 1 is to consider amendment number 1 to contract number 2021-005 with GLMB Architecture for Fire Station 71 and 73 project. On January 11th, 2021, governing body awarded the contract for architectural services Part A conceptual design. This amendment provides a third concept for Fire Station 71 and the completion of a structural analysis of Fire Station 73 for compliance with the building code for a total of $13,297. Recommended action is to consider approving amendment number 1. Does anyone on the council have any questions? I have Councilmember Larson Bennell and Councilmember Thomas. Councilmember Larson Bennell.
My hand didn't get lowered from the vote. My apologies.
Oh, sorry. Councilmember Thomas.
Same for me, thanks.
Okay. Is there anyone from the audience that would like to speak to this item?
When you get done, vote.
No, Mayor. I do want to have one question. I'm sorry.
Okay, Councilmember Thomas.
When we're talking about the Fire Station 71 and 73, I just reflect on March the 18th when the Johnson County Commissioners approved a MEDAC facility to be in Shawnee. I didn't see any location for that. Is that going to be near one of these fire stations? Because commissioners put it in Shawnee, but I don't know where in Shawnee. And is any of this redesign being taken into consideration of a potential MEDAC facility being on site as well?
Lauren Snyder.
Chief Potter, you want to take that? Sorry, Mayor. Chief Potter?
Yes, Chief Potter's here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, this is Chief Potter. So I know MedAct is looking at placing a station in the area of 435 in Midland. So that is for a third ambulance in the city of Shawnee. So Station 73 and Station 71 would still have ambulances in both of those stations with MedAct co-located with us. So those are part of our discussions of the 71 and 73 project. of which they've been a part with us as well. And they've been involved in this process from the beginning in talking about what their needs might be.
Okay, thank you. I just, in this process, I hadn't heard of it until I was made aware about the discussion that had taken place in subsequent approval of that. So, and it said it's going to be in Shawnee, and I was just going, well, that would be nice to know where. So Thank you very much.
Yeah, and if I can add, I don't know the exact location. I know that's just kind of a general area that has been in the discussion. I don't know the exact location though.
So
Okay.
my personal hopes would be that it would cover an area that we're not currently covering with one of our fire stations. I would rather them put it in an area that needs a faster response time than adding it to one of our stations where we already have MedAct available. Personally, I think it makes more sense. I don't know if Chief.
Yes,
Potter-
Mayor. Yeah, Mayor, if I can add to that, yes, that's an area I think that has a little bit of a gap for not only Shawnee, but also Lenexa as far as fire stations. And I think that's probably one of the reasons that MedAct is looking at that. I know they're trying to study the data and understand the impact that would have. And they've kind of identified that's an area that could use some help. So I think it really works for the benefit of the citizens, as you mentioned, having that in a location that now spreads us out a little bit more from a citizen servant's standpoint. That is definitely beneficial. I agree.
Right, better response times. Thank you so much. Is there anyone from the audience that would like to speak to this item?
No, Mayor.
I'll accept a motion.
Move to approve.
Jenkins, move to approve.
Second, Thomas.
Motion has been made, seconded on this item. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion passes. Item number 2 is to consider change order number 1 to contract number 2020-071 with Kansas Heavy Construction for the 67th Street Midland Drive CMP Stormwater Replacement Project number 3519. Construction contract was awarded on November 9th, 2020. Additional funds were allocated for a sidewalk infill within the project area. Change order number 1 represents an increase of $127,536.60 to install the connector sidewalk. Recommended action is consider approving change order number 1. Does anyone on the council have any questions? Councilmember Chaffee?
Thank you. I just, in discussing back in December, some of the sort of unexpected revenue that we did not expect to have based on COVID. I just wanted to express my appreciation to the council for supporting this. I don't know if you're familiar with the stretch of road over here in Ward 4, but it will connect a lot of residents in several neighborhoods safely to our sidewalk and trail system. So I just wanted to express appreciation for hopefully support of it. Thanks.
Thank you. Don't see any other council members. Is there anyone from the audience that would like to speak to this item?
Jenkins makes a motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion has been made, seconded on this item. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Item number 3 is to consider final plans authorizing staff to bid the 75th Street Improvement Project number 3481, contract number 2021-036 for engineering services related to the 75th Street Neiman Road mural wall. This project's on the capital improvement program. Final plans are complete. Staff is seeking authorization to bid the project. Staff is also working with Stantec for engineering and design of a decorative mural wall along the Southern Star property at 75th and Neiman for a fee of $68,875. There are 2 recommended actions to consider. The first recommended action is to consider approving final plans, authorizing staff to bid the project. Does anyone on the council have any questions? Is there anyone from the audience that would like to speak to this item?
Mayor, we have a staff presentation, if that's okay.
Yep, please go ahead.
Good evening. Can you hear me? This is Doug Whitaker.
Yes.
Okay. Doug Whitaker, Public Works Director, and I just wanted to provide an overview of the 75th Street project because this has kind of been an ongoing project. And first, just to kind of, and I know there's some of the newer council people were not involved when it's first started. So first of all, just to look at the project timeline, this project, the 75th corridor, which is from Quivira east to Schweitzer, which is the city limits, was originally
It was my fault. I actually pushed it over here.
was originally on the 6-year CIP, 6 or 10-year CIP back in 2018, and it was listed as our 2019 CARS project, which normally when we do a CARS project, it's a mill and overlay. We do new curb, gutters, sidewalks, streetlight upgrades, and traffic signal upgrades. In the spring of 2018, we had the opportunity to put in for what's called a PSP grant, which is Planning Sustainable Places through MARC, the Mid-America Regional Council. And we were awarded the grant, and the council approved the contract for that grant on January 14th of 2019. In March of 2019, the Reimagine 75th Street initiative began, and from March to September, Trans Systems was the vendor or the engineering firm that handled the PSP. They held 2 public engagement meetings. There was an online survey and 2 public open houses to gather data of what the public would like to see on 75th Street from the standpoint of really amenities and kind of upgrade upgrade that corridor. On February, and there's the pictures there show some of the council or some of the public engagement meetings. On February 10th, 2020, the final report was presented to the council and accepted. And then the final report was presented to the Planning Commission and accepted on February 19th. And then on March 23rd of 2020, we brought a contract forward for Trans Systems to do the design of the street reconstruction. And that's what we're bringing to you tonight is final plans that for approval to be able to go out to bid. You can go to the next slide. Just to kind of give you an overview of that corridor, which again is Quivira to Schweitzer. It's a heavily traveled road with about 34,000 vehicles per day. There are 2 schools located along the corridor, Swano Elementary and Trail Ridge Middle. The Turkey Creek Trail is in Merriam, east of the corridor, down there just east of Schweitzer. And then the Blackfish Trail is located to the west. Transit traffic, as you can note there in bullet 4, is considerable in this corridor. And then also we have the Westbrook Green redevelopment there at the northeast corner of 75th and Quivira that's just getting underway. Next slide. Based on the traffic counts there, that 34,000 cars per day, we knew we had to maintain the existing street cross section, which you see there at the top portion, to handle the traffic. So there's no proposal of a road diet similar to what we did on Neiman Road. However, we had very limited right-of-way in this corridor just because it's an older area and the street had been widened at one time to the 5 lanes. And so we only had 80 feet of right-of-way to work with, and we really couldn't purchase more right-of-way without really having to buy a lot of buildings because you would take away parking lots, et cetera, in that area. So based on the public input, the street cross-section is being upgraded as follows. You will note there that the center turn lane, the 2-way left turn lane, is being reduced from 16 feet to 12 feet. And this is a more normal width. 16 feet, if you think about it, you can actually get 2 cars in 16-foot width, which is not the purpose of that center turn lane. It should be just one vehicle in there at a time. Also, we're reducing by reducing the center turn lane, we're able to add space for that 8-foot shared use trail, which is shown there on the south side. We'll be able to increase the sidewalk from a 4 to a 5 foot on the north side. And then it'll increase the area the buffer area between the back of curb and the edge of sidewalk on both the trail and the sidewalk, which just provides obviously more safety for the pedestrians that are on the trail or sidewalk. Next slide. We were able to incorporate the majority of the items suggested at the public input meetings into the final plans. And so I'm not going to read every one of these, but the project will include our normal mill and overlay, new curbs and gutters, LED streetlights, ADA ramps. It will include an 8-foot shared use trail. There will be major stormwater upgrades. We did some heavy investigation of the stormwater along that entire corridor, and we're estimating close to $1 million worth of stormwater repairs that would get all of those pipes up to, to where they should be in good condition. And this is by utilizing the CARS funds, we can pick up close to $500,000 that we wouldn't have to use out of the stormwater fund for these repairs. There would also be an additional left turn lane installed westbound, a left turn lane at Quivira and 75th, and new signals that would eliminate the split phase on 75th and make this a more efficient intersection. There will also be a brand new, the traffic signal for the crosswalk in front of Swano Elementary will be replaced, and there will be a refuge barrier in the center. However, we don't want to think that there's going to be people stuck in the middle of the road. The amount of time to get across, which these will be the PED facilities that do the countdown, couldn't get the right word out, that will do the countdown, and there will be adequate time for the school kids and anybody to cross the entire road. The refuge is more there just to kind of maybe do a little traffic calming because it is a 5-lane section there. We will have enhanced bus stops, some upgrades there working with KCATA, and then the landscape amenities will be as requested as the public input was requested. We have tried to incorporate as many of those as we can, despite the minimal right-of-way that we have down through there where we have space for that type of amenity. And then the last piece to discuss is really the second part of the motion is the wall at Neiman and 75th, and you can go to the last slide, which basically you can see there in the upper right-hand corner, that's the existing fence there, wood fence that's there. And then those are just some artist concepts. What we're bringing to you tonight that was presented during the grant process from the PSP engineer is the second part of the motion is to bring forward Stantec, which would then design this wall. And we just want to note that we have been working extensively, the city manager's office with Southern Star to actually participate in the cost of this wall to help us enhance that corner. And with that, that's a basic overview of the project. I can take any questions, or I know I have the project engineer and others on if I need to call on them.
Doug, I see I have a couple council members. I do have one question. Well, first, I want to commend staff in that I attended every single one of these meetings, and they were very well attended by the surrounding residents. So people really had an interest in what was going to happen on 75th Street. I mean, it was a full house every time. The one question I had as someone who witnesses the human behavior on 75th Street every day is when we narrow that center turn lane, are we going to do any island work there? Because people use that lane as a regular lane. And instead of waiting to get into it when they're going to make their left turn, they drive down the lane. And I mean, every day, every single day, you find cars that end up bumper to bumper, which I guess at that time it's good at 16 feet so they can pass each other because everybody's getting in that lane too soon. They're getting in it before they should be to make their turns. Are we going to put any island work in there to help that?
We have island work at some of the major intersections to control left turns and et cetera. The issue we have down 75th is there are so many points of access into businesses, et cetera, that are between the blocks. and that if we put in islands, we would cut that access off so that it would drive either cars would have to go down and do U-turns, or in most cases, they would just keep on going probably and go elsewhere. So we're trying to control that as best as we can, but we just have more of the islands are more at the major intersections to control access there where there's left-hand turns.
Okay, thank you. I have Councilmember Jenkins and Councilmember Kimling. Councilmember Jenkins?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just a couple comments. First comment is, I think everybody, and you just alluded to it, that we did a pretty good job of involving the public and getting their input and so on. I just have a kind of a nagging feeling we didn't do that. We didn't really close the loop on that, though. We've kind of, it's been almost 2 years since anybody looked at that from the public and really provided any input. And it would have been kind of nice if we would have had like an open house for closure as well, saying, hey, we went back and did all the planning and did everything. Here's what it looks like, guys. And I'd let the people come in and kind of see that and digest it a little bit. And if there was any, last minute comments or whatever, we could have incorporated them at that time. So I think that's kind of an issue, and I'd like to see us do a better job of that in the future. I think that's something we've done repetitively. We've done the same process where we don't really close the loop and come all the way around and get that final input. The other issue is I got a little problem with spending almost $70,000 for a mural. It's kind of getting me a little bit. Not so sure I'm crazy about that. Maybe we get our art folks here in Shawnee. Maybe they'd like to do a paint a mural day or something like that and save $70,000. Maybe other ways to skin the cat on this and save some money. I know we got to put the wall of some sort of wall in there, or fencing or whatever, but that's kind of a pricey paint job. So I'd like to maybe examine other alternatives if we could.
I'm always open to ideas of saving money, Councilmember Jenkins. And I will point out, so when we were doing the Imagine Shawnee sessions, we did a session with teenagers, and their number one thing to drive them to locations, and that's one of the things we're trying to do, especially to our downtown and stuff. They said they want good selfie backgrounds. So yeah, if we can incorporate this in a way of where people want to come take their selfies, it'll bring them to Shawnee, and then they can go drive right down Neiman right into downtown. So might be a win-win, but yeah, I like your idea, Mr. Jenkins. If we could find somebody local, that'd be awesome. Councilmember Kimling and then Councilmember Larson Bonnell.
Yeah, thank you. I moved into my house in 2006 right off of 75th Street. So it's fair to say that since then I've been on that street almost every single day. And so I'm glad that we're going to make some of these improvements. I like some of the stuff we have on there as far as improving the street lights. And I even think enlarging the sidewalks will be beneficial because I walk on that north side of 75th Street quite a bit, and you do feel close to the traffic. The question I had asked back when we voted on this last time, and I still don't remember the answer to, is why did we decide to do the connecting trail on the south side of 75th and not the north side?
Councilmember Kemling, what we did is we looked into all of this during the design process, and based on the way the right-of-way is, it just doesn't work well on the north side to be able to get the right-of-way that we are. When I say the right-of-way, the space, we're not increasing the right-of-way, the space to get that 8-foot trail in on the north side. Plus, we ran into a lot of utilities on the north side that would have caused us issues. And then down more towards your area, we would have had to have built retaining walls along those streets that go down as you go down, kind of down the hill there towards Schweitzer. And that would have cost some, additional expense. Plus, we would have had to have probably had to have gotten easements or a little bit more property to be able to install walls on those people's properties. So that was based on all of the existing conditions is what kind of drove it to the south side.
Okay, yeah, that's a good explanation. Thank you. You said that they're putting in new stormwater inlets, right? Is that correct?
Yes.
Do you have a map of where those are going to be located?
Yeah, they're on the drawing. They're on the existing drawings there where we were adding them, where they're added, or where the design engineer put them in to pick up. They're going to be scattered all the way from Schweitzer to Quivira. I don't know, Paul Lindstrom's on, maybe he can answer that a little better for you.
Yeah, I mean, I looked through the packet today and I didn't see where they were marked, and it's a pretty lengthy packet, so I could have missed it. But I was just curious because stormwater is quite a concern there in that part of Ward 2. And so I was just curious where those were going. If he's not here to show those, my other question, go ahead.
Hi, this is Paul Lindstrom, Senior Project Engineer. Yeah, we did a very extensive analysis on the entire project for storm sewer. There's actually some sections that were increasing the pipe sizes and increasing the storm inlet sizes. We've added a couple to take care of some areas where it's real flat, local drainage. So we are upgrading 99.9% of the storm sewer along the whole corridor. But those are included fully in the plans. And I'd be glad to give you a summary if you want to do that after this.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. Also, Doug, did you guys have a map of where the islands were actually going to go?
Yes, they're shown on those plans too, and we could get on the final plans, the islands. Primarily, like I said, they're probably at Quivira and Neiman to control the access, you know, they're right at the corners. And then I do know, like, there's the one at the crosswalk in front of the element, or, you know, where the crosswalk goes across 75th in front of Swan Hole. But we could.
So there's already two there's already one at Quivira and one at Neiman, correct?
Right. We're just controlling that because those need to be there to control left turns so that people coming out of those businesses are right at the corner won't, you know, come out into the intersection in the middle of traffic.
So the only one being proposed that doesn't currently exist is by the elementary school.
Yes, right now. Is that correct, Paul?
Yes, that's correct. There is no median today. That would be an addition to this. We have changed the dimensions of some. One in particular is the one at Southern Star on the south side, west of Neiman Road. We have actually shortened that up because we didn't need that many left turn spaces for traffic, and that'll give Southern Star access. They plan on putting a new driveway on the very west end of their project, and that will accommodate them in the future for left turn. So other than that, the rest of them are just being rebuilt and kind of realigned to better serve the corridor.
All right, thanks. That was all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Larson Bonnell and then Councilmember Jenkins.
Thank you. I just wanted to go on record saying I'm very supportive and excited about all of the improvements that we're doing to this area. I'm going to be quite honest, this is not an area that I traverse very often, but I will tell you I've made purposeful visits to here and looked around, and I can see everybody talking about these issues happening. I can see exactly why they would happen. So I think that this is a really good thing for us to be doing. I want to point out, though, that we are making a significant investment in this area, as well we should. And compared to the overall investment, the amount of money that is being asked for the public art component is fairly small. I love the idea of community engagement. And if we wanted to have a contest or something like that for a design concept, that would be wonderful. I don't know how much of that $68,000 would actually be saved from that. Even if you move forward with doing a contest like that, there would still be an expectation that you would pay for supplies, that we would probably do some kind of a per diem. And then, of course, there would be, we would make sure to have attribution for the person that was doing that. I suspect that a good portion of this cost is actually to the construction of the wall, not the making the wall prettier. So is that correct?
Yes, that is
yes, that would be correct. This is the design to design that wall, and this would be a pretty substantial, obviously, structure so that it will remain there for many years to come. We don't want to just put something in there haphazardly that then will start tipping and falling over. This would be well-constructed wall. And so that's what the primarily Stantec is coming up with. It's not so much the artwork on it as much as it is the design of that wall to be constructed around that property.
Okay, yes, certainly. If we can engage our residents and if we have some local artists, I always think that we benefit from using local artists. That would be wonderful to incorporate, but I don't think it's going to save us much money. So I'm in favor of this. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, it looks terrible now. Councilmember Jenkins and Councilmember Thomas.
Just something real quick, Doug, you and your crew, appreciate you guys working this project in such a way we could get qualified for $500,000 in CARS funds. Good job on that.
And that actually we're getting $1.5 million. It's just like use 500,000 towards.
That's really good then.
So we've got $1.5 million in CARS on this one, right, Paul? That's what I remember, anyways.
It's actually 1.4 million, but yeah, close enough.
Okay, I missed by 100,000. I'm sorry.
Councilmember Thomas.
Yeah, a couple of things. I just wanted to thank you for clarifying the dollars that were highlighted and in the 68,000 that the bulk of that is for wall construction. To comment on what Eric had said earlier about looping back with the residents and the community there that utilizes that, and so committedly came out and shared. The loop back is really important, and I think we learned that again earlier in this meeting with the gentleman that came back up, talking about Belmont Promenade and knowing what, looping back to those residents too, because we worked hard to get their buy-in, however, that just kind of fell off. So, and when we talk about community engagement, it's important that we do take those intentional, deliberate steps to keep them updated. So as 2 years ago is a long time ago, a lot of things happen and don't happen. At least they know what to expect before a meeting for public input that they could at least review. Thanks.
Thank you. I do not see anyone else on the council. Is there anyone from the audience that would like to speak to this item?
There is one, Mayor.
Okay, please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Mike Frizzell, 11116 West 77th Terrace. Just as Ms. Thomas and Mr. Jenkins has alluded to, it's been 553 days since there's been any public input sought on this project. In the packet, the plans are all engineer drawings, which mean very little to me. I'm not an engineer, I don't understand those. The wall, the city has repeatedly bragged about how there are no sound barrier walls along 435 or K7, and that's about how the city plans development so well. But now we're going to put a wall in the middle of 75th and Neiman. Even if you put art on it, it's still a wall, still ugly. There was also the drawings that staff had on the monitors earlier. Some of those said Shawnee on them. There was extensive discussion when the water tower was proposed that the council at that time did not want any mention of the city or anything to do with Shawnee on that water tower. That's all I have.
Thank you. And I would agree, there are tons of gas smell calls to that location daily, weekly. So if we put the name Shawnee on there, it could cause some problems of people thinking it is a city facility. Thank you for your comments. Anyone else from the audience that would like to speak to this item?
No, Mayor.
Councilmember Thomas?
Yes, in listening and hearing about the smell that comes from the natural gas right there, is there anything that Southern Star can do to help ventilate some of that to control what folks are, because it's costing us money every time we get called out to it.
Yeah,
so is there anything that Southern Star can do to help mitigate some of that? If it's a known problem, what steps are they taking to correct the problem?
And that would be a great question. I don't know if staff has talked to them or not. What I do know is that it seems to be kind of like the landfill. It seems to be very weather dependent. So I think when the atmosphere is heavier, more humidity things, I think that's when we get more of the calls. But if staff knows a better answer, I'll let them speak to it. But I've noticed it's more weather dependent, like the landfill. Assistant Manager Caitlin, do you have?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. We're in almost constant communications with Southern Star, specifically in regards to this project. Hopefully you all saw in your packet that they are financially assisting us in this project. I think Doug may have mentioned that, but definitely we'll follow up with them and get that back to you because those are some concerns we heard as well.
Yeah, and to the mayor's point, it may be similar to the dump out by where I live because I know that it's not a perceived odor. It is a stench on some days. But in this case, nobody's calling out first responders, so I think to get them to figure out something that could be done in that area to mitigate that odor, I think would be helpful.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And Mayor, this is Nolan. I mean, and the flip side of that too, we want to make sure that, people aren't used to that odor and there might be an actual gas leak somewhere. And so we will work with Southern Star to see what we can do to fix the issue. Again, till this discussion came up and you had mentioned the concerns with the number of calls, we will follow up with Southern Star and see what we can do.
Okay. Yeah, and you should be able, I would think, to pull that data from the fire department on the calls for gas smells. It used to be in our monthly reports that we received. Councilmember Nappen?
Yes, this is the final plan, so I assume this is the last time we'll see it. I would like, to the mayor's point, for you guys to take a look again, and I question whether or not we want to have Shawnee on that billboard, especially given if it's an area that does not smell well. So I'd like for us to look at that again. I don't know if it needs to be part of the motion or anything, but that's something I would like to seriously, for the Public Works to take a look at before we go forward on that. Other than that, I'm really supportive of the project. I mean, that area needs a significant facelift, and this is going to provide that. We did it on Neiman, and hopefully we'll do it faster on 75th Street. So I'm very supportive of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Mayor, I should say that those are just conceptual, and so the final recommendation will come back to the council for review. So.
Okay, I will accept a motion.
Mayor, this is Stephanie. We have one more from the audience that would like to speak.
I'm sorry. Please go ahead, speak your name and address the microphone.
Yeah, Ray Ehrlichman, 7510 Garnett Street. Just a side note from my work in part of the industry. Natural gas has no odor. And the product that goes into the natural gas to give it the odor so that you can be aware of it, it's called mercaptan. I don't know if the fire chief would like to expound on that. But it does not take much, literally one little drop on the ground, and the wind being right, you could actually smell it for half a mile, if not more. It's a very, very powerful product, and there's no way to really, you can't spray Febreze or anything onto it to stop it. And that was the reason why it was developed the way it was. So it's, as far as mitigating it, it would be, from my experience, be extremely difficult because of why it was developed and the way it was developed. Again, I don't know if there are any other experts on the scientific side that would like to explain it better than that. But just a little itty bitty drop and it goes for miles. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the audience that would like to speak to this item?
No, there's not.
Thank you. I'll accept a motion.
Move to approve, Larson Bonnell.
Second, Constance.
Motion has been made, seconded on this item. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And
Aye.
Mayor, to clarify, we're talking about the first recommendation, correct?
Yes.
There's two recommendations, Mayor.
The first recommendation.
Are we voting on the first one?
The first recommended action is to consider approving final plans and authorizing staff to bid the project.
I will vote yes to that.
Okay. So motion has been made and seconded on this item. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Second recommended action is to consider approving and authorizing the mayor to sign the contract as approved by the city attorney. Does anyone on the council have any questions? Anyone from the audience like to speak to this item? Councilmember Thomas?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we'll see this one more time. Because, you know, to the point, I don't know if it was which Mike Frizzell or Mike Kimling, but talking about the wall right there on that street, and there's a lot of there's a lot of residents and that type of thing. I'm not saying I'm against it. I just want to make sure that we'll see it again before it's finalized.
That's correct, Councilmember Thomas.
Thank you.
Anyone from the audience like to speak to this item?
No, Mayor.
I'll accept a motion.
Move to approve, Zimmerman.
Second, Larson Bonnell.
Motion's been made, seconded on this item. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is miscellaneous items. Item number 1 is to ratify the semi-monthly claims for March 22nd, 2021 in the amount of $4,308,647.91. Does anyone on the council have any questions? Anyone from the audience like to speak to this item?
No, Mayor.
Accept a motion.
Move to approve, Zimmerman.
Second.
Mayor, I tried to get my hand up before you passed on.
Sorry, Councilmember Thomas.
I'm sorry to be a pain. I think that, knowing what department these expenses come from would be interesting to have on that sheet as well. What cost centers are they? Then I know we can't do it on this one, but moving forward, it would be nice to have that check register reflect the departments that the expense is tagged to. Some of them are obvious, some aren't.
Okay, I don't think we have any comment from staff. So I will accept a motion.
To approve.
Second, Constance.
A motion has been made, seconded on this item. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Miscellaneous council items. Does anyone on the council have an item they would like to discuss? Seeing none. Last item on tonight's agenda is business from the floor. I'll ask the clerk to report if there's anyone in the audience who would like to speak from business from the floor.
We have one from the audience.
Okay, before I ask for comments, I'd like to go over the ground rules. Please be sure to state your name and address for the record. Each person will get 5 minutes. Only comments related to city business are permitted. Comments and remarks that are personal, impertinent, or slanderous and/or disruptive acts are not permitted and will not be tolerated. Mask must be worn while making comments to keep everyone safe. The overhead projector will not be available. Email any handouts to governing body at cityofshawnee.org. Sign the form on the podium when you're done speaking, and I'll ask the first speaker to come forward, state the name and address for the record.
Would you like me to put a tissue over the microphone?
No, I'm not worried about it.
My name is Joanne Atchity. I live at 6514 Bradshaw. I was prepared this evening to come and sit quietly in the back of the room and be a part of my city government. But I was excluded from the room tonight because I cannot wear a mask. I have in my hand Governor Kelly's Order 2052, which includes 11 different exemptions. Shawnee City Council believes, apparently, that they are above such trivialities as the governor's exemptions, and I've been excluded and left to foyer I was offered a chair. I elected to stand in the foyer for the entirety of the meeting. I just want to make it very clear that no emergency suspends the Constitution and that no one No elected person, no appointed person, no health officer, no president, no governor, no mayor, no city councilman has the authority to require a living man or woman to cover their face. My liberty does not end at your fear. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the audience? Any more business from the floor?
Yes, ma'am, I'll bring it. Would you like, no, that's okay. Would you like to talk? Okay.
No, that's it, Mayor.
Thank you. There's no other items. I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second?
Motion has been
Second.
made and to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion passes. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.